It is almost 4 years since the hurricanes chased everyone out of New Orleans and flooded communities from Florida to Louisiana. While the government's response was less than stellar, the outpouring of support from nonprofits and individuals was outstanding. Much of the work done in the first 2 years was accomplished by volunteers. Our visit to the Gulf Coast brought us into contact with many of these amazing everyday heroes, and we dedicate this edition to the thousands who sacrificed their time, their vacations, their sweat, and their service to the rebuilding of the community and the spirit of the Gulf Coast.
Musicians Village is a virtual project. It represents an outreach to musicians, a special recruitment area, a special effort to inform them of the program and give them the opportunity.
Housing is still incredibly important, home ownership is still incredibly important, but a great need for our city now is affordable housing, to bring people back, to get people back in our city so that people can take the jobs. There's jobs here. It's just finding a place for people to live so that they can then get back and be a part of the workforce.
It gives me so much gratification to be able to be here and to also become a homeowner of my own, something that I have been looking forward to for a very long time.
I think it's magical that an organization like Habitat is giving us the opportunity to stay in New Orleans. It's such a great feeling to be able to work in my own house, so in other people's houses. I think the whole idea of Habitat to give the opportunity.
Habitat really has the right program going in that the homeowner has a sense of pride. They come, they work along with us, sweat equity along with us, they put in their hours, and then they buy their home.
This is my 4th day out now, and it makes me feel very proud. It makes me feel wonderful. I can't describe the feeling because it's a great feeling.
To see volunteer stories, go to www.projectkatrinavolunteers.net.
A trip to the Gulf Coast turns into a nonprofit organization.
Hi, my name is Ira Nabatoff. I'm a long-term volunteer here in St. Bernard Parish, which is located directly next to the lower 9th Ward of New Orleans. We are in what I would consider the epicenter of devastation from the aftermath of Katrina. I originally came here for 18 days 2 years ago this coming Monday on the 7th of January with the intention of working at a relief kitchen for 18 days and returning to my life in New England. By the end of those 18 days, I had connected so strongly with the people of the region here that in good conscience, I just couldn't walk away and say, see you later, let me know how you make out. I went back home and managed to spread some word locally as to what my take on what was going on here was. I came back on the 14th of February, and at that point I had been part of the kitchen in a way that I was doing community outreach, and I had formerly been part of a community center and kitchen in Keene, New Hampshire, and I came to realize that the goodwill and the need were long-term, but all of the resources were very temporary. So I vowed to try and connect with locals and see if we could share the vision of starting a community center. And towards that, we started holding community meetings the middle of March '06, and by the middle of April '06, we had formed a local grassroots nonprofit, Community Center St. Bernard, and the ball was rolling. And we filed with the feds about a month later to get our tax-exempt status, and it languished on some bureaucrat's desk for about a month and a half. Finally, I enlisted the aid of a congressman's aide and a tax advocate out of the New Orleans office of the IRS, and we managed to get a phone number and a name of the bureaucrat. And the first question was, we need a reason to expedite this. And we kind of looked around and said, my God, we're truly in the epicenter of devastation. If that was ever, if there was ever a compelling reason, one would think that would be it. But of course, that's not quite how the government works. They needed a compelling reason such as we were in danger of losing our grant, our first grant from the United Way, because we are a United Way partner agency, that we would need our status approved in order to get the grant. Well, that was a reason enough for them to try and expedite. Within 2 weeks after that, we got our status approved and hit the ground running. We almost had a warehouse closer to the river that took on very little water. Unfortunately, even though I had an agreement with the owner of the property for the community center, he had listed it with a real estate agent, and he said, well, I got to pay the guy the commission anyway, go through him. Well, you know, this event has brought out the best in people and the worst in people. The real estate agent chose to set up an appointment with us and a business entity at the same time, which is probably pretty unethical when it comes to how realtors are supposed to function, but it compelled to start somewhat of a bidding war, which bumped up his commission and fees and pretty much knocked us out of the running for the building. So in late June, early July of '06, we worked out an agreement with the local Andrew Jackson Lodge and the Masonic Order, and in their effort to give something back to the community, they partnered with us and they gave us this location here. What you see is about between 800 and 1,000 volunteer man hours, because this building here took on 6 feet of water and was only partially gutted when we came on. You know, we had to finish gutting it, we had to clean everything out, tear down the ceiling, we had to replumb the bathrooms, hang doors, build the media lab. Like I say, you know, 800, 1,000 volunteer man hours later, we're almost ready to open our door. And, you know, if the electrical contractor had been more engaged, we would have been open the first week in October. Unfortunately, you know, the situation was such that we couldn't open our doors until the first week of January '07. So we are actually, in fact, celebrating our first anniversary of opening this month. And, you know, we have many programs, mostly through partners, because we are so undercapitalized and understaffed that, you know, everything we do is, you know, through our network. You know, we have legal aid services, we have a medical mission bus that comes in, you know, we you know, through the Musicians Clinic, we have funding to hire New Orleans musicians to come play for the community here. You know, we do a lot of things here, but, you know, if not for our partners, it would be much more difficult, if not impossible.
To see volunteer stories, go to www.projectkatrinavolunteers.net.
So hard, I don't know how. This is our neighborhood. You can tell some people are back living in their homes, and then some people are just not back.
Recovery in the Reverend Connie Thomas's New Orleans neighborhood reflects her own personal journey, progressing, coming back, finally.
Hey, my Angela, I love you so much. I love you too.
For every old friend who finally returns, another is gone for good. So it is with Thomas's life mission as well. Like her home, the United Methodist Church she served was wrecked in the storm. Decommissioned, it's now for sale as is.
Every day this church was open and filled with young people from around the community, and I don't know where those children are.
But she's quickly back in the present.
You live with knowing that you're being healed every day.
Now Thomas leads a new church, Mount Zion United Methodist. It's accomplishing much against the odds. A health clinic has begun operating in the church.
What the clinic represents for me also is cutting-edge ministry.
The clinic sets up Tuesday nights in the room where services are held, which isn't the sanctuary. That still looks like it did right after Katrina.
When I hear the roofers, it makes me feel that it's happening.
The work ahead still stretches to the horizon, in the church building and all around her. And Connie Thomas stays right in the middle of it all, between complete disaster and an optimistic future.
There really are memories that I have, that I always have. But in the midst of it, I know that God is there, and I just have this confidence that it's going to be okay, and it is already okay.
When I came to New Orleans, I felt like I had mentally prepared myself for destruction. What I didn't prepare for was the emotional toll of hearing people's stories.
I'm 80 years old. I was born in 1925. My biggest regret is that I have to practically start all over. I've lost everything: furniture, clothing, bedding. None of it is usable. I couldn't even use the furniture for kindling wood to start a campfire.
The homeowners were really everyone from a fairly young adult couple with a new baby who've really lost their whole home, through seniors, members of the Jewish community, members of the non-Jewish community, various neighborhoods, from neighborhoods that took maybe 6 or 8 inches of water to homes that were under 9 feet of water.
We did everything from like yard work to, just completely gutting homes, taking out carpet, removing furniture.
This is my wedding announcement. No wonder I had that one stuck out. Been married for 45 years.
Wow.
And in this house for 43.
Not only did they clean homes and help with community organizations like synagogues, but they came down and listened to people. They allowed people to grieve. And that's probably the most important thing that our volunteers did.
Some of my Hadassah pins, girls.
Finding a lot of Hadassah things in good shape.
Yeah, life member pins.
You see so much destruction here that it sort of overwhelms you and you almost become numb to it.
Be prepared that you cannot know what's coming, what you're going to see, and be open to that, and be open to the emotions that that's going to produce.
In the midst of all this destruction, there was this pink headband, and it just struck me, because you know that it's sitting there because it belongs to someone, because it belongs to a little girl.
And the first thing she said to me, she said, "Oh, Mommy, look at that." She said, "That's some little girl's headband."
And it makes you wonder, like, is that person okay? Are they going to be okay? So
everything they had was just left the way that it was, and their belongings were strewn on the street.
I'm here because I have a responsibility to the world. I have a responsibility to rebuild the world, to perfect the world, to try and make it a better place.
Not only did we help individuals, but also the community at large. For example, Congregation Beth Israel, which was the synagogue that suffered the most hurricane-related damage.
Beth Israel is New Orleans' only modern Orthodox synagogue.
And they really had nothing left there. It was completely destroyed, and it was in just such disarray.
It was under 9 feet of water for close to a month, so nearly every home in that neighborhood has been absolutely destroyed.
We took down all the yurt site plaques, and some of them went back from like 1912. And we literally took each plaque down, and those are the only things that the synagogue really has left. That's really their only memory of who was there and their history.
If we don't have businesses, we don't have jobs. And if we don't have jobs, we don't have people. If we don't have people, we don't have a city. One of the byproducts of the volunteers coming down here is when they're here, they're spending money, they're supporting the local economy, and they're sustaining local business.
One day we took everybody to a kosher restaurant, and the other day that we catered in from a kosher deli, so that we were able to support New Orleans kosher businesses, which I think is very important because both businesses have just recently reopened after gutting their buildings.
This experience has been life-changing.
I want people to realize that it's still going on, that these people still need help. They still need help rebuilding their lives. They still need help finding jobs.
Here, you have an opportunity to make history. You're part of history. And you can really make an impact.
I can now go back with stories, and I can teach my students and speak to my family, my community, and tell them what I see and tell them what I saw and what I did.
Who do you turn to when your donors have lost everything? Who do you turn to when your donors have become your clients, basically? And I think the answer is they turn to us. They turn to the American Jewish community, to the world Jewish community, because that's what the Jewish community is about. It's about Kol Yisrael Arivim Zel Hazeh. It's about all of Israel taking care, being responsible one for another. And we have to be there for them because they need us right now.
How do you thank people for putting people's lives back together box by box? You can't.
The fact that when I picked this book up, and it's all pretty molded and stuck together, but the only page that opened up was something that reads, "To see the world anew." And I think what it means is that they've been through so much devastation here and their homes are completely ruined, but that sometime again the world will be anew, and with everything that goes bad, there'll always be something good that will come out of it, we hope, and good things to look forward to. And that's what life's about.
My one pair of tennis, underclothes, pants.
As Hurricane Gustav took aim at New Orleans, 45-year-old Joyce Butler packed some clothes and followed a mandatory evacuation order.
We boarded a plane, and that was my first time ever getting on a plane. And they brought us here.
Butler is among hundreds of New Orleans residents relocated to Nashville, Tennessee to ride out the storm. She is staying at a Red Cross shelter at Hillcrest United Methodist Church.
Do you need to make a phone call?
I just let them know that I'm safe.
With help from church members, Butler has been able to call her adult children and stay in touch over the internet.
This is my daughter.
Paul Rearick refused to leave Metairie, Louisiana without his family, a 5-year-old tortoiseshell cat named Maggie.
Well, quite frankly, it's the last thing that I have left since Katrina.
Following 2005's Hurricane Katrina, Paul and his cat were turned away from 3 shelters which refused pets. Since then, home for this pair has been a FEMA trailer, then a motel room, and now a church gym.
After going through, Katrina and everything, we heeded the warning and got out.
Did you get on an airplane?
Families have been told it may be a week before they can return home. Until then, volunteers are doing what they can to make their guests comfortable and to keep their minds off the stress everyone is feeling.
I worry about the children the most. I really want them to feel welcomed here.
These people have welcomed us, they have sheltered us, and they've opened their hearts. They've given the one thing that's more precious than any of that. They've given their time, and that's the one thing that we all only have a finite amount.
After I got married, I had, both of us were pharmacists, my husband and I, and we were the only drugstore in Waveland, and there was an apartment over the drugstore, and that's where we raised the 7 girls.
My father died when I was 12, and my youngest sister was 2.5 weeks old.
Yeah.
So Mama took over when my father died.
And so it was, you've heard the story, it takes a village to raise a child. Well, it really was that way. The village did help me. If the girls were out on the beach and they were maybe with no sleeves on and the wind was coming up and it was getting cold, somebody would come by, Louise, you better go get the girls. It's getting chilly out.
The elderly people in the parish have been waiting for this day to see a groundbreaking for 3 years, and we kept hoping and wishing and praying. I've been in St. Clair's Parish all of my life, for 76 years, and my parents and grandparents before me were also members of St. Clair's Parish. My grandfather and father helped build the first church that was here at St. Clair's. It was a wooden church. It was painted white. My mother and father were married in there, and so were my husband and I in 1952. We were married in this wooden church. And of course my kids, my 5 of my children, have all been baptized, received First Communion. All but one was married in that church, in St. Clair's Church. Not the wooden church, but the new brick church. So anyway, it's always been a big part of my life and my heart.
It's going to be a big relief. It's going to be so much nicer once the building is up than being in the tent. The tent's nice, but
it's a tent.
It's a tent. In the summertime, it gets rather hot.
Do you think it's going to be emotional?
Yeah.
Do you think there's going to be some tears over there?
I think so. I'll probably shed some myself.
Okay.
It's somewhat of a new beginning, although I think there's been so much spirit here that it's been a continuation, but it just marks a milestone, and we'll be very happy to get back into a real church instead of a tent.
Water is a sign of life. The waters from the heaven, which hopefully we'll hold off for a few moments, give life to the earth. The waters of baptism give us eternal life. And by sprinkling water here, we say, Lord, let this sign of life, water, be a sign of our prayer that your life is going to be here among us. Because this building is just a building, unless we make it something more. An edifice for the glory of God.
Plumbers and helpers, electricians.
I'm just down here because I want to be. It was a lot of fun, and it was cool to help people.
I volunteered to help people and to show other teenagers that they can come and do this too.
Well, this is hard work, but it's definitely worth it. We're just helping people, and it's a great experience. Everyone should do it.
Did you meet anybody new today?
Yes, I met about 8 other new kids and got their phone numbers so we can keep in touch.
Volunteers, we've had so many people come down here and help us with the cleanup. And I just go to show you there's so much more good about this country than ever was wrong with it.
So if somebody were to say to you, why bother rebuilding St. Clair?
Oh my goodness.
Why not go to Our Lady of the Gulf? Why not go to St. Anne? Why not go past Christian? Has anyone ever asked you that question?
Yes, we had a discussion with the bishop. He came and we talked about that, and that was the question: why rebuild St. Clair? And the reason to rebuild St. Clair is because it's all an integral part of our lives. It's been through generation after generation after generation. And I know people say that the place doesn't matter, but the place does matter, because the place has all the memories values as a community. And like Mama was saying, just the love of the Eucharist at that church too. That's...
Oh, yes.
I think that means that the rebirth of the parish, rebirth of the community, and that the people who will benefit generations to come from a new church, a new multi-purpose building, will someday thank us for the vision that we're going to have for the future.
I think it's going to bring a lot of hope for people who haven't started rebuilding yet, who haven't come back yet because of the uncertainty of, the community and the church and the schools. And I think once they know that their church is coming back, it's going to be a stability for them to say, okay, things are getting better as far as that area goes. Maybe we should rebuild and come back, and things are starting to get back to normal. And it's going to be great. As far as the neighborhood, it'll make it look a lot better too. It won't look like debris anymore.
The church will be eventually built. I don't think it's going to be built in my lifetime, but my children and grandchildren will see it.
And is that important to you?
Yes, it is. Very